Earth, 4.5 billion years ago. The pale blue dot we know today was anything but suitable for life. Glowing red and fiery hot, volcanoes erupt over the entire molten surface. The average temperature is well over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, much hotter than even lava. The planet, just born, was constantly under a barrage of meteor impacts. In fact, a Mars-sized object would soon crash into young Earth and form the Moon. You couldn't live there, and breathing is certainly out of the question. Those continuous volcanic eruptions released toxic gases into the sky. Our Earth had almost no atmosphere. But then, life found a way. Chemical reactions from those same volcanic eruptions would help create an atmosphere. The planet cools and hardens, water appears, oceans form. They fill with microorganisms that release a rush of oxygen into the air. The atmosphere becomes breathable. Complex life appears and evolves. And the rest, as they say, is history. Now imagine that atmosphere, the very thing we breathe, our warm blanket, the planet's protective bubble, was gone in the blink of an eye. But not for long, just 5 quick seconds. Surely we can handle it. Right? Time slows down and 1 second in. Everything immediately becomes silent. Just imagine you're screaming or saying something, but no one can hear your voice, just like in outer space. There's no atmosphere for sound waves to travel through. You can now only feel vibrations in the ground. Right now, life on Earth is like being in a vacuum. The planet has also lost the shield that protects us from solar energy. The sun's rays are too strong and toxic to handle. These rays are usually filtered when they pass through the atmosphere. The heat gets distributed throughout the planet evenly. But at this moment, the most unlucky are those sunbathing on the beach. But most people don't feel it yet. In the first second, they can only feel the temperature increasing. Many plants aren't as lucky as humans. They're less protected and get scorched in this brief second. But the worst thing is that oxygen stops being created in nature. Grass, trees, plants, flowers, all of them absorb carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Using the sun's energy, they convert this gas into oxygen. You probably remember learning about this in school. It's photosynthesis. But most of our precious oxygen actually comes from the ocean. Well, the seaweed and microorganisms in it. The ocean releases a huge amount of oxygen that rises into the sky. Then, the atmosphere distributes it throughout the planet. Now, without that natural distributor, we can't get that precious gas our bodies need. Humans won't feel it in the first second, but for many other living beings, this moment can be critical. 2 seconds with no atmosphere. People outside get sunburned. Beachgoers can't rely on their umbrella for protection. It'll soon be scorched by the hot rays. In places where the weather is bad now, all the clouds dissipate. Because of the high temperature, water evaporates into space. Where it's night now, a new ice age begins. The heat has stopped spreading evenly all over the planet. The rain turns to ice. Heavy hail starts. Most living nocturnal animals are freezing. People out on the streets of big cities at night don't freeze in the first couple seconds. Cities create their own heat, and it saves residents. For now. The climate that was once so varied, warm, dry, rainy, wet, windy, it's reduced to only 2 options, extremely hot and extremely cold. Water begins to boil in lakes, rivers, seas, and oceans, but not because of the hot temperature, but a pressure drop. The air disappears. There's no longer a boundary between space and the planet. The sun's shining, but the sky's losing its color. Blue is replaced by black. The Earth becomes like the moon. The planet is bombarded by solar storms. There are flashes of energy that shoot out in all directions from the sun. Without an atmosphere to protect us, the storms disable all electronics, lights go out, the internet stops working, and cell towers are broken. 3 seconds in. Nature has taken a real hit because of the extreme temperatures, but the worst is yet to come. The atmosphere protects us not only from the sun's energy, but also from space debris. Thousands of satellites have been disabled and are now falling to Earth. They start to rain down on this planet. And with no warning, usually meteors and anything else falling toward Earth get entirely burnt up in the atmosphere before they even reach the planet's surface. Our world's gravity pulls them in at breakneck speeds. The air resistance is too much, and friction skyrockets. A flame ignites, and you can see falling stars in the sky. Not anymore. The nightmarish rain will take us by surprise. If the atmosphere doesn't come back soon, small coin-sized meteorites will pierce through houses, cars, fields, roads, everything. Larger meteorites, the size of a soccer ball, could create a powerful blast. Places everywhere will spend billions of dollars on repairs. It's impossible to be in the sunny parts of the planet. The temperature is too high. The luckiest ones, whether human or animal, are underground. People in the subway don't feel the heat. They're also protected from the sun's toxic energy. Everyone has trouble breathing. Not enough air to fill your lungs. The world is starting to panic. 4 seconds in. Many are starting to feel dizzy. Some lose consciousness. The cells of your body stop being saturated with oxygen. Your body responds in a panic and starts pumping out adrenaline. Heart rate increases, pupils dilate. The brain tries to find a solution, but fails. People start to get even more nervous. They'll remember this short-term shock for a lifetime. 5 seconds with no atmosphere. There's much less oxygen to breathe. Algae and plants are burning or freezing. Small rivers and lakes have almost dried up completely. They're down to a quarter of their size. Usually, the force of gravity pulls birds down, but they flap their wings, push off the air resistance, and rise up. Now, the airflow is gone, and only gravity remains. Birds are falling from the sky, flapping their wings helplessly. They're joined by airplanes. Just when it looks like it'll be a true horror scene, snap, and the atmosphere returns. The planet fills with oxygen and heat. Birds manage to rise in the sky again. Pilots get control of the yoke and save millions. The black sky returns to blue. The sun's rays don't burn so much. The heat gets distributed all around. The temperature rises in cold places. People can take a deep breath. Bodies of water stop boiling. Surviving plants resume the process of photosynthesis. You hear your own voice and other sounds again. Life returns to normal. Oh, well, don't forget the meteorites. Hundreds of cosmic rocks and space debris start to burn up, but it's too late. They're too close to the surface and don't burn up entirely. Several meteorites fall into the sea and form tsunamis. The ones that crash into the ground wreak havoc. Luckily, the rain is over as fast as it began. No one can use their phone yet because the connection hasn't been restored after the solar storm. The only question on everyone's mind is, what just happened? The atmosphere's vanishing for a mere 5 seconds showed how much our planet truly needs it. Humanity won't stand a chance if the atmosphere disappears forever. Fortunately, we have technologies that allow us to monitor the state of our planetary shield. If it disappears, we must be prepared for it. People will build large domes that won't allow solar storms to pass through. Inside, we'll create an artificial atmosphere that maintains a normal temperature and pressure. It filters the sun's rays so plants can release oxygen. Outside the domes, Earth will look more like Mars. You'll only be able to go out there in a spacesuit. Anybody who couldn't get a place under the domes will go underground. They'll live deep enough to be protected from the sun. It'll be impossible for them to use our star for energy, so they'll take it from the Earth's core. And no need to worry about a reliable source of water. There are rivers and lakes underground. But who knows? Perhaps humanity will have already found a new habitable planet. So if the atmosphere ever suddenly disappeared, we'd be watching from a distance.
There's enough gold underground to cover the entire planet in a thick layer. Would you believe that? Well, you should, because it's true. Since 1950, humanity has mined nearly 200,000 tons of gold. If we made a cube out of all this metal, it would be 70 feet high and wide. Recent data from scientists confirm that there are huge reserves of gold in the Earth's core. The metal is enough to cover the whole planet, and people might have gold up to their knees. The problem is, we just can't mine it from there. Hey, I don't mine if you don't. The Moon and Mars are better mapped than the Earth's oceans. Now, this can't be true, can it? Actually, it can. We have a detailed map of the Moon and Mars, although we're still discovering surprises on their surfaces, granted. Still, over 80% of the Earth's oceans are unmapped and unexplored. We can't study the oceans properly because of pressure, cold, and lack of light underneath billions of tons of water. The lava is always red. What other color can it be, right? Myth or fact? Myth. Usually lava is really red or orange because it's basically molten rock from the deep bowels of our planet. But there's one volcano in Indonesia whose lava is blue and luminescent. Only at night though. During the day, it looks normal. No mystery about it, just tons of sulfuric gas. This volcano also has the largest acidic crater lake in the world. The water there is so turquoise, you want to jump in immediately, but you probably guessed you should never do that. The fire on that volcano is also blue, the largest blue fire in the world, rising up to 16 feet high. Ever seen a gas stove burning? Here, the principle is basically the same. You can see a rainbow at night, too. Is it myth or a fact? It's true, and there's even a name for this phenomenon, a moonbow. Also called a lunar rainbow, this event occurs extremely rarely. It's similar to a regular rainbow, except when it appears on a clear moony night after a rain shower. There's a thing called a fire rainbow, myth or fact. You bet! It's a beautiful phenomenon when the clouds in the sky are painted all the colors of the rainbow, looking like a fiery, multicolored cascade. It only occurs when the conditions are right, and those are very specific. It's close to the equator, the weather is clear, there are feather-like clouds in the sky, the sun is higher than 58 degrees above the horizon. Such clouds are made of ice crystals. When the sun's rays hit them, the particles refract the light and create a rainbow. Wow! There are rainbow trees, myth or fact. If I made you doubt this, I'm glad, because this one is not photoshopped. This is the rainbow eucalyptus, and their bark may literally have all the rainbow colors. These eucalyptuses shed their bark at different times each year. Every time the old section goes off, the tree first reveals bright green bark that was hiding underneath, and then it may turn any color. There's a whole set of hues: orange, maroon, blue, even purple. Stones can move on their own. Myth or fact? Well, you'd be right to believe me. There's a desert plain in California where rocks move around of their own will. Once this plain used to be the bottom of a lake, but then it dried out and became an arid wasteland. Sometimes rains fall here, flooding the entire valley. When night comes, the temperature drops and the water is covered with a thin layer of ice. When it gets warmer again, the ice breaks into segments and the wind pushes them around the place. Some of these ice shards take small rocks with them. When the ice melts for good and the water evaporates, the only thing that remains are trails left by the rocks, as if they'd moved on their own. Mud puddles can move around, myth or fact. In fact, a single mud puddle in the world also travels as it wants, and nobody still knows why. It moves at a pace of about 20 feet per year, and it seems to have started its journey near the San Andreas Fault in California. People have tried to stop its march, but couldn't. So far, this creeping natural disaster isn't showing any signs of stopping on its own either. So, there's your pesky, problematic puddle to ponder. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.
Hey, I want to show you something. Let's take a little trip off of Earth and park our spacecraft somewhere near the moon. We're now almost 240,000 miles away from our home planet. That's almost 100 times the width of the United States. Now we've brought a special set of tools with us. A giant hammer, and an enormous chisel. Place the chisel at the Earth's North Pole and strike its head with the hammer. The Earth cracks open like an eggshell and we see another planet. This is Thea, and it's hiding inside our planet like a yolk in an egg. If you want to find out how it got there, you need to travel back in time 4.5 billion years. This beautiful nebula is what will eventually become our solar system. Colored dust and various space debris are slowly coming closer toward the common center. Over time, this jigsaw puzzle of debris becomes denser and heavier. The temperature inside the giant is rising. Soon, it gets so high that it'll trigger a nuclear chain reaction. One more second, and bam! There's an explosion so powerful that the shockwaves travel far into deep space. When the dust clears a little, you can see that a bright light is still shining at the very center of the explosion. This newborn star is the Sun. It weighs as much as 333,000 Earths. If the Sun was a bucket, you'd need 1.3 million Earth-sized planets to fill it. But we're interested in that small object over there, 93 million miles away from the Sun. This pile of rocks and hot lava is Earth. Right now, the planet is busy forming its core while the oceans of lava are gradually cooling down. But some millions of years later, after the Sun's birth, you notice another small object. Here comes Thea. This small planet was formed at about the same time as Earth, and right now, it's following a crazy spiral trajectory at enormous speed. Scientists believe Thea was like a ball Jupiter and Venus played around with. Venus would pull Thea in one direction, and then Jupiter would pull it right back. But what makes up 99.8% of the mass of the solar system is the Sun. It's what makes Thea move into almost the same orbit as Earth. So they inevitably come closer and closer to each other until they become next-door neighbors. We see that Thea is roughly the size of Mars, as wide as the Atlantic Ocean from New York to Portugal. At this point, the collision can't be avoided. Thea is traveling towards Earth at nearly 9,000 miles per hour. That's 11 times faster than the speed of sound. If this smaller planet would crash into Earth at a particular angle, Earth would most likely be torn apart, as well as Thea itself. The collision would cause a huge blast visible on other planets, even on a bright day. Nothing would be left but some burning dust and debris. Even if Thea only slightly grazes the Earth, it'll still knock out a sizable chunk. But the collision with Thea happens at a perfect 45-degree angle. It strikes the Earth at tremendous speed. The explosion literally vaporizes huge amounts of rock, and the shockwave sends the remaining debris into Earth's orbit. A huge crater is formed at the impact site, which soon gets filled in with boiling lava. The remnants of Thea and the ejected fragments of Earth begin to orbit our planet. According to one theory, these fragments actually form two moons. At first, they travel together, but one day they get too close to each other and collide, forming one large space body. The other theory claims that all the loose shards get pulled in by the remnants of Thea, and that sometime after that, they form the moon, as we know it today. At this point in the past, though, it's just red-hot rock and lava. The collision at this angle slightly tilts our planet and accelerates its rotation. It's because of Thea that we have different seasons and 24 hours in a day. Now, Earth also has these things called lithospheric plates. These are enormous solid land masses that make up the crust of our planet. After the collision with Thea, they start to break and crack. It causes carbon, a primary component of all known life on Earth, to start moving all over our planet, so Earth gains a kind of metabolism. After a few 100 million years, the first living creatures start to appear on our planet. Over the next nearly 4 billion years, simple single-cell organisms evolve into the kinds of complex life you see today. According to scientists, a collision like we had with Thea is a very rare event. The probability that somewhere out there there's a planet like ours that has survived the same catastrophe is even rarer still. This may be the reason why we have yet to find other traces of other civilizations out there in space. Meanwhile, the remains of Thea are still here on Earth. Of course, it doesn't look like an actual entire planet stuck inside our own. Most of the fragments have melted and blended into the Earth's crust. If you take the top layer off our planet, you'll see 2 huge lava blobs the size of large continents. They're right below Africa and the Pacific Ocean. Presumably, these are the remains of Thea. They didn't mix with the Earth's mantle because of different densities. It's like mixing water and oil in a glass. The oil will always float up over the water and create an even layer on top of it. But if you raise these lava patches up to the surface, they'd be 100 times higher than Mount Everest. Other remains of Thea might be on the moon. The Apollo space missions brought back many soil samples for analysis, which led scientists to conclude that the moon is very similar to the Earth in structure. Someday in the future, people could drill deep down and take samples of the moon's crust. Then they'd analyze the blobs from Earth, and if their structure matched, it would be undeniable proof that Thea did hit Earth 4.5 billion years ago and gave us the moon. But for the time being, Thea remains an unsolved mystery. Scientists are still not sure that the planet actually existed. The whole idea does perfectly fit the model of the moon's creation, but it's also possible that this incredible collision may have never happened. Now, let's travel 41 light years away from Earth to the planet 55 Cancri E. It's about twice the size of Earth and 8 times heavier. Let's take out our giant hammer again and use it to hit the chisel. The planet cracks, and you see it's a giant diamond. The temperature on this planet is tens of times higher than on Earth, and its soil is rich in carbon. The heat puts a lot of pressure on this carbon, and the structure changes. First, it turns into graphite, but then add just a bit more pressure, and the graphite turns to diamond. On Earth, diamonds form at depths 60 miles below sea level, where the pressure is 50,000 times greater than that on the surface. And the temperature there averages over 1,000 degrees, which is as hot as fire. Diamonds are often ejected closer to the surface in volcanic eruptions, but still, people mostly have to dig mines 1,500 feet deep to find these beautiful gems. Currently, the Golden Jubilee diamond is the biggest cut and faceted diamond on Earth. It weighs as much as a chocolate bar and is the size of a hamster. Its price is about $12 million. Now, imagine a diamond the size of an entire planet! Now, let's fly back to our solar system. Our destination now is Jupiter's moon, Europa. It's as wide as the distance between Seattle and Houston, and its mass is less than 1% of the mass of Earth. Its surface is enclosed in an icy crust that's about 19 miles thick. Europa is completely covered in water. It's freezing here, 3 times colder than that of the North Pole and Earth. The water turns to ice almost instantly. But the ocean beneath the surface is still liquid. Europa has a gravitational relationship with Jupiter, just like the moon with the Earth. This creates tidal forces that heat Europa's core, which then melts the ice around it. The result is a huge ocean, 2 or 3 times larger than that of Earth's oceans combined. Scientists believe that water is one of the essential ingredients for life. This means that life may exist on Europa. There could be thermal springs, just like at the bottom of our oceans, though the water there is probably much warmer. And even though the pressure and temperature in such places are likely to be extreme, simple bacteria could live there. Europa is almost the same age as Earth, so there has been enough time for living organisms to appear and evolve. Who knows, maybe some advanced civilization is already blooming under this crust of ice. They might be building big cities and dreaming of conquering space. But for now, all we can do is speculate, and maybe someday send a probe to Europa to find out if life is possible there.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.